The Tampa Bay Lightning and their fans got exactly what they needed out of the Lightning's 4-1 win in their home opener against the Vancouver Canucks on Tuesday. We'll break down the Lightning's home opener and more on today's episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Lightning, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Lightning for your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, this is the podcast for you. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, you got to be in a pretty good mood right now. 2 games, 2 wins by a 4-1 margin in each, both against playoff teams from a season ago, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are cruising to start the 2024-2025 season. A lot of doubts surrounding this Lightning team with the departure of Steven Stamkos, and they have really answered the bell in this new season so far with 2 different wins, but both wins quite dominant. Last game, it was the Hurricanes who opened the scoring. This time, Nikita Kucherov got one within the first 4 minutes of the home opener after a moving introduction with the Lightning paying tribute to the Tampa Bay community and showing their support for fans and community members that were affected by Hurricanes Milton and Helene that hit the Tampa area over these last couple weeks. And, you really want a game after just local tragedies like Helene and Milton were in the Tampa Bay community. Many still without power, many still without homes. You need kind of a distraction like a game sometimes. And the Tampa Bay Lightning not only gave the fans that kind of distraction, keeping their home opener after canceling their final 2 home preseason games, or 2 of their final 3 home preseason games. And it was a dominant victory. Kucherov scored a goal within the first 4 minutes of the game. The Lightning scored the first 3 goals, with Brayden Point getting one. And another one came within the first minute of the 3rd period. Fastest goal to start a period for the Lightning this season, when Anthony Cirelli found the back of the net, and then Brandon Hagel hit an empty netter. And all in all, it was a really well-balanced game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It just seemed like everything was clicking. The defense looked great, and the offense was firing on all cylinders, even with a period in the second that Ryan McDonough called sloppy. The Lightning really seemed to just have everything together. Their team chemistry really seems off the charts. And the Lightning head coach, Jon Cooper, talked about how well the team has been gelling so far in the 2024-25 NHL season.
The guys are gelling a little bit. I think that's what you hope for. You just don't know when it's going to come. But with the disruption of camp, how long we had to go away, all the things that have happened, I don't even know if you get the families together that often, this early, and we've all just been together. And so I think that's really helped us along. And then, just in the fact that, hockey's kind of our common bond and we're a team together, but you kind of saw it happening off the ice in this training camp, especially when we went to Carolina for that week. And I think it's carried on, especially coming home and seeing a lot of the devastation and what's happened here in our city. It's just kind of brought everybody together, and so it's translated to the ice.
So, Coach Cooper really touched on the fact that the negative part of the hurricane, moving the whole team to Carolina, almost a week ahead of that first game, did really help the team, and it really showed out there on the ice. I mean, there's so many new faces on, I think, every single Lightning line. There was somebody new. There was a guy who joined the team in the offseason, or was called up from the AHL or something like that. I mean, so many new faces on the Lightning team, but I mean, watching these guys play, you really wouldn't know that. I mean, it's just they already seem like they've been playing together for a large portion of the season. And seeing that 2 games in, especially with a team this young, with a team, that has so many new faces on it, you don't expect the chemistry to work this well, this quickly, but it absolutely has. The Lightning really showed how well that they work together as a team, particularly with their passing. The last Lightning game I was at was in the preseason against Florida a couple of weeks ago, and the passes looked so much better. And these were, pretty much the same lines from that preseason game. A couple of players were mixed around in different positions. Luke Glendening and Mikey Eyssimont were not in the preseason game. But, I mean, just comparing from how much this team has progressed passing-wise over those 2 weeks in between home games at Amalie Arena, it is remarkable to see how much progress the Lightning have already made. And, there are obviously a lot of talented players on this team, but I mean, it's just, you don't see that kind of development in skills, in components of the game that quick. I mean, you talk about midseason form in just about every sport, and today's game really looked exactly like that. Maybe a little bit of rust showed in that second period. Lightning had a couple of giveaways, and, as Ryan McDonough mentioned, they did look a little bit sloppy. But for, the better part of the 60 minutes, it was just a show of force from the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I don't want to start hyping up this team in terms of, great first 2 games. They're definitely going to make some deep run this year. They still might. But this is the kind of start, a dominant showing in 2 games, one on the road, one at home, 2 playoff teams. This is the kind of start that you see from contending teams, not just guys that are going to be fighting for a wild card spot. The way the Lightning have looked in the last 2 games, they have looked legit. And I honestly think that this team can only go up. The more they play this season, the more the team will learn to gel together. Something we'll hear Brayden Point talk about later in this episode is Jake Guentzel's ability to gel with that, star-powered first line. And that's only going to improve. These guys are still learning how to play each other. They're still, meeting each other in a whole lot of cases. And, having that extra time in Carolina really seemed to help them, just spend that much extra time together, get that team bonding, and now with the Hurricanes as well, that just gives them something extra to play for. And I certainly don't want to say that the Hurricanes were any sort of positive thing, because they weren't. But there is a silver lining for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the aftermath of Helene and Milton, and that is clearly that this team already looks like they're in midseason form. An absolutely dominant performance. Andrei Vasilevsky in goal was incredible. And for a 4-1 game, we had great goalie play on both sides. The Lightning had a lot of chances, and there were a couple of them that the Vancouver Canucks goalie, Seelovs, just eliminated. He made some fantastic saves, but at the end of the day, it was just too much pressure on the offensive side of the puck from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that was what ended up winning the day. Just crisp passing, great puck movement, good communication between the guys, and, you really showed how strong this team is at its core. We're not talking about the individual players. This is going to be one of the few times I'm not going to start making Nikita Kucherov's case for multiple different trophies. But, it really didn't seem like it was Nikita Kucherov's world and the rest of the team was living in it. It really didn't seem like it was Victor Hedman's world and the rest of the team were living in it. It really did seem like this is a team. This is a group of men who have really bonded over the course of the preseason and the offseason, and a group of men that I think are starting to prime themselves for a playoff run. And I don't want to start saying that the Lightning are going to win another Stanley Cup after 2 great games. As great as these games were, you can't start looking into the playoffs like that in October. There's just too much that can happen in between now and April for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And if this team stays well, it really seems like the sky is the limit for them. It just seems like a team that gels really well together. And that is something that, if you notice it early on in any season of any league, it is going to be a positive. It's going to make a positive impact on the team. And that team chemistry, that bonding, the bond that's been forged between these Lightning players really showed out in Tampa's home opener. So you love to see the Bolts get a home opening win, especially for the Tampa Bay fans who absolutely deserve it after everything they have been through following Helene and Milton. We're going to take a bit of a break, and we're going to focus on a specific part of the game, how quickly the Lightning were able to turn it on, how quickly they were able to get things started, period by period, and at the beginning of the game. We'll take a look at that when we return here on Locked On Lightning. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including the great state of Florida. And it is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first period and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed that you get that $50 bonus when you play your first 5. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big playouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. The code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL is below. And make sure to get that $50 guarantee after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Back here on Locked On Lightning, Josh Sperber, as we get ready to start things off. And I start a lot slower than the Tampa Bay Lightning did. Within the first 4 minutes, as I mentioned earlier, Nikita Kucherov got the game's first goal, his 4th of the season, and a goal in each of his first 4 periods by average. Not too shabby from Nikita Kucherov. And the Lightning's new captain, Victor Hedman, praised the strong start of his Tampa Bay Lightning.
Not too much about the X's and O's. Still work to be done 5-on-5, and the special teams are struggling a little bit. So it's just dedication by the guys and finding ways to win games. And super proud of the way we came out today and kind of took control in that first period.
So there are a couple things to nitpick, like there will be in any game. But I mean, if you can get a goal in the first 5 minutes of the game, you're cooking. And then the third period, in second 39 of period number 3, Anthony Cirelli put the icing on the cake with the Lightning's third goal. They've scored in each of their last 5 periods of hockey. And, it's been a strong start for Tampa Bay, not just when it comes to the season, but I was really just talking about the extra energy that they seem to play with. I mean, I think part of it certainly had to do with the crowd. It was it looked like a full house at Amalie Arena on Tuesday night. The Lightning faithful came out in droves, some with canned food, a lot of them wearing the Tampa Bay Strong shirt that the Lightning are selling for charitable purposes to donate to different organizations that are helping in hurricane relief. But I mean, whatever the juju was in that stadium, it helped the Lightning get off to a really strong start. And that is a huge improvement for Tampa not getting a goal in the first period against Carolina and kind of coming back from a 1-0 deficit. In this game, it was never in doubt. The Lightning almost had a goal within the first 2 minutes of the game as well. It was just a barrage of offense on Vancouver. And, you know, you got to give the goalie credit. Seeloff's had a really good game, 24 saves, 4 goals allowed for Seeloff's. I mean, that's solid. And some of his saves really kept this game from becoming a lot closer. I know I mentioned that in the first segment, but I mean, this game could have been a blowout. And a lot of it had to do with that hot start of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, you know, I don't want to say that this is something they need to do every game, because I think that's an unrealistic expectations. You know, every day, you know, every time you come to the stadium, there's different things going on that might affect your play or anything like that. But there is still something to the Lightning's game that I think makes this hot start something that we could see pretty regularly. There's a lot of fast skaters on this team, and the passing is what really, I think, triggered this hot start, because the Lightning were just moving the puck around so quickly. Their passing was so well improved, as I previously mentioned, and something that any coach, any hockey coach will tell you is the puck is going to move faster than you. You know, it's something that you learn early on and something that you kind of have to adjust to. And the Lightning really had control of the puck. They really had control of the tempo in this game in their home opener against Vancouver. And they did that by passing really well. You know, obviously, there were a couple of giveaways that second period the team talked about as one that they like to have back. And, you know, Coach Jon Cooper even said that they played like idiots in the post-game press conference. And that's paraphrasing, but the word idiots was used. And, you know, there's one bad period. They still didn't let up a goal partly because Vasilevsky stood on his head. He had an excellent game in net. A power play goal just leaked in that third period, and that was really it. I mean, the Lightning got out to a really hot start, and, you know, they were playing a Vancouver team that lost in overtime and lost in a shootout after overtime went scoreless. So this is already a Canucks team who made the playoffs last year, started having a pretty frustrating start to the season. And that hot start for the Lightning really set the tone from the get-go. The Lightning took the opening faceoff, went right down, and Seelov's made a really good save to stop Tampa from getting an opening goal around a minute into the game. I mean, it was just dominant from the get-go for Tampa Bay, and that is something that I would certainly like to see. I have not seen that kind of aggression from the Tampa Bay Lightning in this year. And, you know, yeah, it's a small sample size, the couple of preseason games, and this being the second regular season games. Both of those games were won by a 4-1 margin. Two very different wins, but Lightning still with a 3-goal advantage. I mean, that is great. And getting a first period goal, always huge. And getting a goal in the first 5 minutes of the game is not something that you see every day. And, you know, Nikita Kucherov is taking a bigger role in this Tampa Bay Lightning offense, and it's showing. I mean, it's really, you know, he's such a good passer, and his passing, I think, helped set the tone for the rest of the Lightning. And that was evident from the get-go. The passing in the first period was nearly perfect. And I think the Lightning getting out to that hot start tonight was the key that, you know, kept the Canucks out of it. It really didn't seem like there was a point where Vancouver was in the game. Even in the couple minutes where it was tied, the Lightning were really in control. They outshot in the first half of the first period. The Lightning outshot the Canucks 9-4. The Lightning are getting shots center ice, right on net, right in front of the crease, while the Canucks were just kind of flicking shots towards net whenever, whenever they had some kind of sliver of an opening. And even that power play goal that they scored wasn't a best shot. It was just one of those that everyone ended up crashing the net and the puck just trickled by Vasilevsky. And, again, I think that big start really set the tone for the Lightning. So when we're back at Amalie Arena on Thursday, maybe the biggest early test of the season for Tampa Bay, going up against the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm really curious to see how fast they start. I'm really curious to see how aggressive they play coming out of the gate, because I think that it is something that really fits well with the team's identity, and it matches the talent that the Lightning put out on the ice. So I'd like to see another aggressive game, another hot start when the Lightning return to Amalie Arena on Thursday. Something that I've said I want to see for a long time is a Jake Guentzel goal. He's had 3 assists in his first 2 games, much to the delight of his teammates and coaches. We'll talk about his impact in his short stint so far with the Lightning when we return on Locked On Lightning. Now, I am not a big-time sports bettor, but when I do, I know some of my friends bet, and I don't know anyone who uses a service other than FanDuel. And you too can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the exact same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. And tomorrow I'll have ads for the Lightning and Golden Knights tilt that will go down on Thursday. Back on Locked On Lightning, Josh Sperber here, and we're going to talk about one of the Lightning's biggest acquisitions. I don't think I have mentioned another player more than him so far on Locked On Lightning, but Jake Guentzel signing a 7-year deal with the Lightning after coming over in a trade from Carolina has already made a profound impact on the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has an assist in each of his first 2 games, including 2 assists against his former team, the Carolina Hurricanes. And he assisted what ended up being the game-winning goal from Brayden Point. Second goal of the game, Jake Guentzel set up behind the blue line, and Brayden Point, the trailer, Guentzel laid the puck on a tee for Point. One-time slapper, top of the net, third assist for Guentzel, second goal for Brayden Point. And I do think Brayden Point might end up being the guy who has the most inflated stats from between Guentzel, and Kucherov on that Lightning first line. And I don't say that like I think he's going to have a bigger stat line than Kucherov. I think, inflating Kucherov's stats goes from 144 points to 200 or something crazy like that. I still think Kucherov's going to have another monster season, but goal-wise, I think Brayden Point is really going to benefit from 2 guys that can pass the puck really well. And Guentzel had 17 assists in 25 games with Carolina last year, and already with 3 in his first 2 games with the Lightning. Now, 2 of those assists against Carolina were on empty net goals that completed Nikita Kucherov's hat trick. But he's been able to do it when the Lightning are down a skater, and he's been able to do it on even strength. He's been able to find his guys. And it wasn't just the passing from Guentzel that impressed me. It seemed like any time the ball went near the net, whether it was a goal or whether it was a freeze by the goalkeeper and, play stopped, Jake Guentzel always seemed to end up right around the goal. And that just shows that he's a guy who he plays smart. And that is something that Guentzel's teammates and coaches have already noticed in his short stint so far with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Brayden Point, who got the goal off of Guentzel's assist today, commented on what it's like to play with Jake Guentzel.
Well, he's extremely smart. He's got talent to make plays, but he's smart. He knows where to go. He finds time and space for himself, and he works extremely hard. He keeps pucks alive in battles, and he wins a lot of those battles. So it's been really fun for him.
So, that intelligence, that hockey IQ, which Jon Cooper in the postgame said was elite IQ. He said he could think with anyone in the NHL. And that was clearly echoed by one of his teammates in Brayden Point, who was the primary beneficiary of that hockey IQ. And that is something that Guentzel has already shown. His stats might not look as impressive as you'd want. I mean, yeah, you might have wanted to see Lightning or Guentzel get a goal in his first game with the Lightning, in his home opener with the Lightning. I mean, that's just something you want to see. But he's still helping the Lightning put points on the board. He is still making a positive impact on this Tampa Bay team in every sense of the word. I mean, he just, you really could see that hockey IQ on display, and not just with his passing, not just with his shooting. He almost had a couple of goals, including one in the first period where Silovs made just a fantastic, almost cross-ice save on Guentzel. But, I mean, the goals are going to come. But Guentzel also stayed pretty aggressive on defense. He has 3 blocks and 2 hits in his first 2 games with the Lightning as well. Finished with a +2 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And you like to see forwards come back on defense as well. You like to see the offensive players, the guys that you're looking for to get points on the scoreboard. You like to see those guys give as much effort on the defensive side of the puck than on the offensive side. And that is absolutely something that not just Jake Guentzel did, but I think all of the forwards on the Lightning did. And you can really see the effect that Guentzel has had. It doesn't, diminish the danger that is going to evacuate when Steven Stamkos left. It just doesn't seem like that much has changed. I'm not going to try and compare Jake Guentzel to Steven Stamkos. Let me make that clear. But what Guentzel's play has done so far is that it is kind of helped the Lightning move on from Steven Stamkos. That's obviously something you're going to have to do when a player like that leaves. But it just doesn't seem like that line is missing a beat with Guentzel on that left side rather than Steven Stamkos, who had been there for the past 16 years. And being able to say that in game 2 of the season, no growing pains on Guentzel's third team in the last year, I mean, that is really impressive. And it just shows the kind of team player he is to be able to kind of adjust his game to new situations, to new teams, to new styles of play, what have you. He has been able to do that so quickly. And I think that is only going to help the Lightning excel in this season. And that first goal is coming. It might not come on Thursday. I hope it comes on Thursday. But Jake Guentzel is going to put up a lot of points for the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. And I really believe that first line could be one of, if not the most productive first line of forwards in the NHL this season. That is how talented that line is. Guentzel, Stamkos on that left side, it doesn't matter. Guentzel, Point, Kucherov, those 3 are just absolute aces on the first line. And the more goals they produce, the better that first line does, that trio does for the Lightning, the farther Tampa Bay will go as they make a run towards the playoffs and hopefully towards the franchise's fourth Stanley Cup. But we'll have to talk more about that tomorrow or some other time this week, because that is it for today's episode of Locked On Lightning. Really appreciate you guys making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now for your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over the rest of your league with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And you've clearly already found this podcast, but please make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. I guess I should say X, but there are plenty of ways to stay connected with us, and we would like to connect with you here on Locked On Lightning. So thank you all for tuning in to the show. My name is Josh Sperber, and we'll see you tomorrow. Go Bolts, and have a great night.